Right, hello and welcome to today's Material Musings. So here is the fabric journal that you've seen from the first week, and what we're going to be doing is looking at how we can use our water-soluble pencils and maybe our Neocolors, so wax, our wax crayons, water-soluble wax crayons. I've got a selection in there, and work on the page. And again, it is about experimenting and playing and giving yourself the space. And if you give yourself time to practice and work with your supplies, you get to know them even better. So what have I got? Now you get what you have. If you've got Derwent Inktense pencils, I've got two different types. I've got the Derwent Inktense pencils, and I've also got the Derwent Graphite tint. So that's these ones. So I've got a few more in here. Okay, so I've got the graphite tint here. I think there's a few more that are missing, and I've got the Derwent Inktense pencils, and I've got the Neocolors. And I did an activity last week with myself, and I cleaned up my Neocolor. Being in this jar, they got a bit grubby, so I cleaned them up and they look really nice. So I'm just gonna pick out just a few colours. We don't want to get overwhelmed with, like, I think I've got like 36 different colours in here. Anyway, so we just want a few, and we're just gonna play and experiment. So what you will need to do, what you will need as well is some water. I've got this palette which was just some Perspex, and I've been using paint on it and it's made it rough. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways in which I use my Inktense pencils and how I would use this to create, use it in like a watercolor way. Okay, and I've got this book, so I've already got pages that are painted, but I'm gonna go on the pages that haven't been painted and has just got some gesso on it, so that you can have a look and see how we play. Right, yeah, we'll just use this one. So this is literally just the surface, and my belly's growling. Don't know whether you can hear that. Okay, so and brush of choice, and you don't want to saturate with lots of water. I mean, this has been gessoed and dried, so you know it's gonna act like a canvas would. Okay, so what you can do is just get the colours of choice and just add colour to the page. So I'm just going to add a few of the colours and see how it looks. So as I say, this is the Derwent Inktense, and it's just like adding it to a canvas, like so. I'm going to do some of the Inktense, the graphite tints. So those colours, you would definitely have to experiment with them on paper, because they are lots of browns and grey tones, and you know, they've thrown in some. We've got the range of colours, but it's almost like if you think about you know, graphite. So it's more if you're drawing, and it's a really nice supply to work with. Okay, so I've got my, oh, let's add some orange up there. Maybe some, okay, right, so that's a good selection of colours there. So all I'm going to do now is activate it with water, and you'll get to see the effects. I've got to add my favourite colours as well. Okay, so I want to start off with the lighter colours first. I'm just literally going to activate them with the brush. So the other thing I don't like doing is wasting paint. So I'm going to take off any excess and add that to a different journal. Okay, so this page is for the excess, and then I'll wash my brush out and go on to the next colour. Okay, let's do this green. So you can see it's quite nice on fabric, and again it depends what fabric you're using, but as I say, the natural fibres, the cotton, you can get a nice effect. And the Inktense is highly pigmented, so you do get a richness in the colours on the surface. Look at that, see? See, that's, you know, you get quite a lot of coverage there. Look at that blue. It's gorgeous, isn't it? So I would say that they're slightly muted. I mean, even it does look bright anyway, but they're slightly muted because I haven't covered fully this with the gesso. So I could have kind of changed the colour. Where I've gone more heavy with the gesso, you know, it's lightened the trousers. But so let's see what the graphite tint looks like. Ooh, look at that. So it's still quite rich. It's nice, it's nice. I feel I'm being reintroduced to my supplies. This used to be one of my favourite supplies that I would use. I was doing a lot of drawing and working in my journal at the time, and even on fabric, and I've always loved working on them in this way. Okay, so we've seen the Inktense, and this is the Derwent, sorry, the Inktense and the graphite tint. Let's have a look at the Neocolors. So I'm just gonna go down the line there like that. and then it's nice to be able to you're more able to kind of plan out, if you plan out some of the work that you're doing and the supplies that you're going to use. Okay, so, and this was the residue, so I've still been able to get a reasonable amount of colour on here, and I will just do the same with these. So there we have the Neocolors. Look at that. It's still, you know, again, very vibrant. And I guess, you know, it also depends how thick you're going to add it to the surface. But it's very pigmented. And yeah, you've got 3 different supplies and using them on fabric. So the other way I want to show you, like, you might want a more subtle look, and let's see if we can achieve that. And I'll just use this page, I think. So what we're going to do now is not apply, so this will have to dry obviously, but what we're going to do is not apply the Inktense, the graphite tin, or these to the surface. We're going to bring in this kind of rough surface that I was showing you, because it's a way of diluting the supply first before you add it to the surface. So we're going to go with the Inktense, and we're just going to bring some colour down here. So I'm just going to bring some greens in. So all I will do is on this surface start rubbing the pencil, and you get bits of it shaving off. You could also use your brush directly onto the tip like that, but I don't like doing that because it then just adds water all the way down here. So I've added it to the surface, and then we just add water, mix it all in, dilute it nicely, and then I can apply it to the surface like so. Let me get this lighter green, and again, so this has built up, it's just got built up acrylic where I haven't used all the paint. So you might have one already there that, you know, you haven't yet cleaned it yet. What I've done with other palettes is I eventually just peel off. So I could have used it on this one, but it's not as kind of rough as this. This one would take a bit longer to peel all of this off, so it's ideal for this kind of exercise. So you can just, you know, use it. It's almost like using a watercolor. Okay, so let's do the graphite tint as well, and you'll just get to see a variation. So just adding it, getting my brush and activating it, making sure I get all the bits up. Or when you're, think about when you're sharpening the pencils. So when you're sharpening, you're always going to get a bit of that pigment. So if you save that, you know, I'm not encouraging you to hoard, but see, so it just, on the surface, it just rubs off and stays. There's a little bit of dust there, and so I can pick that up with the brush and just activate it, and then I've got my colour. That I can add there, and it's just a variation. It's just, you know, whether, you know, it's however you want to work. So some of the pencils, so I was just trying to see if it was going to be a bit grainy, but some of the pencils, you know, if you don't want it as deep, so that's the same color as this, but because I did it on the surface, it's a lot lighter. You have more water to it, and yeah, that's a way that you can work with those. And you can do the same thing with the Neocolors. You can rub it on the surface first. You know, you might want to blend some colors together, and this is a nice way of doing that on the surface. So I can blend these together and then work straight on the fabric. Okay, so again, in terms of playing, I like, as I say, I like doing faces, and maybe I'll work on this one. Yeah, maybe I'll work on this one as opposed to working on the face. So I've got space to experiment when I'm ready to come in with my, it would have to be a Posca pen because these jelly rolls don't work that well on the fabric. But I'm just going to start adding colour to this now and taking it to a stage where, you know, I can come back and work on either stitching or adding fabric to it. I might find that there are pieces that I want to add to it and stitch it in or stick it in. You know, it's up to you what you want to do. So I'm going to have fun on this, and I'm thinking I'm going to use my Neocolors because those are the colours that I haven't used in a very long time. And this is actually the first time I've been working on fabric with the Neocolors, so I want to actually just, you know, experiment and see how I get on. And I'm going to do the two different techniques, working on the surface like this and working by adding it to the palette and seeing the kind of effect I get. And then any excess will go on another page, or just go on this page. Okay, so I've got it to this stage with all of the Neocolors. I'm wanting to try some ink, so I'm going to set up my ink. Okay, so I brought some new brushes. They're actually nylon. I've not used them before, so I'm going to try and add some ink to this and just again enjoy the creative play. Okay, so here we have the finished to this point page, and I'm quite happy to leave it and maybe come back and do something else. Who knows, or maybe that's as far as I need to go. So this is a mixed media page. We've added paint, we've added the gesso, we've had the Neocolors, we've got the ink, and you can just experiment with your supplies on the surface of the fabric, and then that'll inform you for the next time that you carry on working. So I hope that that's been useful. Again, playing about with my supplies, playing about with my Inktense pencils, my graphite tint pencils, and then my Neocolors on the surface of fabric. So as I say, this can be stitched if I wanted to stitch. I can add to it or just leave it as is. So I look forward to seeing what you create.